what is our first main topic today?
Okay, guys, first one up is from Maurice Folks. Hey, John, I just read a report that John Wick 3 director Chad Stahelski stated that the Wachowski siblings are working on a fourth Matrix movie. It sounds like it's going to be a sequel to the original trilogy and not a reboot. Is this the right choice? Will Keanu Reeves be involved? Thanks, and keep on bringing the filthy.
All right, so a bunch of you guys may have seen this flying around your social media the other day, that they're talking about, oh, it's kind of been confirmed. Stahelski says, I don't know how he's connected to the Wachowskis in any way, but he says that the Wachowskis are working on a new Matrix film, and that we're going to get a new Matrix film from these guys, and it's going to come, and it's going to be a sequel, and it's going to be fabulous. It's not going to be a reboot or anything, all that types of good stuff, right? So this has started to spread around that the Wachowskis are working on another one. The Wachowskis. Where did this come from? Okay, so here's the specific quote that came from Chad, who was talking and promoting his new upcoming John Wick 3 movie, which is, of course, coming out next week. And this is specifically what he had to say. He said this: I'm super happy that the Wachowskis are not just doing a Matrix, but they're expanding what we all loved. And if it's anywhere near the level the level of what they've already done, it wouldn't take more than a call to go, hey, we want you to be a stunt guy. And I would probably go and get hit by a car. Now, this is in an interview that he did with Yahoo Movies. Here's the one, there is a little problem though with all that. And that's that Chad Stahelski's representation are now saying that Yahoo Movies misquoted him in that interview. So that's the thing. That interview came out, and understandably, well, I mean, that sounds pretty solid. If he knows that they're making another Matrix movie, that must be what it is. That's pretty solid info. However, again, Stahelski's representation is saying that that was a misquote. They misquoted him. This is what they had to say. This is from The Verge. A representative for Stahelski told The Verge that the quote is inaccurate, and that he did not say that the Wachowskis are doing another installment, but that his comments were talking about if they were, he would love to be a part of it. So now it kind of sounds like he's not, or that they may not be doing another Matrix film at this point. What do I think right now? Did he say something that he just shouldn't have said and that they were doing damage control? Or is this a case of, like we've seen many other times, somebody doing a written interview and accidentally misquoting somebody, maybe they misinterpreted something they said, one or the other. I'll tell you what I think, and I don't know, none of us do. I think it would make sense that they misquoted him simply because of this. I don't see any major studio giving big money to the Wachowskis to make another movie right now. Let's consider this. In the past 12 years, they've done 3 movies. What are the 3 movies they've done, and what kind of results did they get from those movies? Let's take a look at it. Okay, so, I've got my graphic out of alignment here. Forgive me for a second as I get this fixed. Okay, here we go. So first of all, we got to ask the question, should Warner Brothers trust the Wachowskis at this point? Should they even trust them at this point? Because take this in consideration. After the Matrix Revolution, which most people didn't like, they came out with Speed Racer. There are some people that really like Speed Racer. I think it's an unforgivable disaster of a movie. I think it's just awful. Just awful. Not the worst film on this list. We'll get to that in a second. I thought it was awful. Here's the thing. It had a production budget of $120 million, and it only made worldwide $93 million. When you take into account marketing costs and the cut that the theaters keep, this movie lost the studios nearly $85 million. And a lot more people liked it than they should have, in my opinion, but it got a 40% Rotten Tomatoes score. Okay. After that, their next film was Cloud Atlas. I don't think this is a very good movie. A number of critics did like it, though. It got a reasonably okay 67% on the Rotten Tomatoes meter. But here's the other thing again. It was another financial flop for them. The budget on the film was $150 million. That's a big budget, even by today's standards. Worldwide, the movie made 130. When you take into account marketing and the theater cut, they lost nearly $100 million. The studio lost nearly $100 million on that film. Then we get into the piece de resistance. We get to Jupiter Ascending. This is one of the worst wide release Hollywood motion pictures of all time. Of all time. And it's got a much higher than it deserves, 27% on the, all film is subjective, so that's great. But I scratch my head. Really? 1 out of every 4 critics like this movie? This movie sucks. Like, unbelievable disaster this movie is. Anyway, the disaster wasn't just in the quality wise. Again, it was a disaster at the box office. Production budget, the most expensive film, $176 million to make this movie. A worldwide box office total of $184 million, which again, with marketing and the theater's cut, you're looking at another film that lost about $85 million. In total here, in their last 3 movies have combined lost nearly $250 million for the studios. And these are the only 3 movies they've made in the past decade or more. So the question really becomes, why would Warner Brothers go back to the Wachowskis at this point? Now, look, I love The Matrix as much as anybody. I really do. But considering that a lot of people didn't like Matrix 2, personally, I do. I'm one of the few people that actually really like The Matrix 2. But almost nobody liked Matrix 3. I mean, that one seemed to go off the thing. So we're talking about Matrix 3, Speed Racer, Cloud Atlas, and then, of course, rounding that out with just a contender for the worst 3 movies of all time. Doesn't make it on the list, but it's horrible. Jupiter Ascending. Losing with almost a combined losses of $250 million in losses. My question would be, why would Warner Brothers want to go back to them? Now, it's also important to keep this in mind. Back in 2017, there were some rumors going around that Warner Brothers may be looking at relaunching The Matrix, but it was without the Wachowskis, and it was said to attach Michael B. Jordan. Now, whether that's still alive and kicking somewhere on a shelf, we don't know, but that one was in complete contradiction to what these rumors are right now. So, considering the recent history of the Wachowskis, considering the financial losses the studios have taken on their films, considering the fact that Stahelski's representation is saying that was a misquote, right now, and I don't know, none of us know, but right now I feel pretty good thinking that that this probably isn't true. We're probably not going to see a Matrix sequel from the Wachowskis at this point. But again, we don't know. We don't know. So, Ashley, let me ask you this. The Matrix films, I'm sure you probably love the first one. You and I haven't talked about these things. I'm sure you probably love the first one like a lot of us. How did you feel about the trilogy overall?
Not good. The first one was amazing. I mean, it's probably like up in the top 20 best films of all time, top 50. But the other 2, I kind of agree. I thought the second one was okay, but I think I was just excited to see it, so I gave it some leeway. I was like, oh, but it's Matrix 2, but it wasn't that good. And then the third one was garbage, and so I was actually just looking up. I remember, didn't they do a series, like a TV show, maybe?
Well, they did this thing called the Animatrix. Mm-hmm. They did that, and that was an animated thing. They never actually did any kind of a live action television series or anything like that, but they made a bunch of shorts, and they thought that was going to lead in some other things. But
I wonder if they'd have better luck actually as a series now, rather than another like reboot or a sequel or something like that. I think they would maybe, but I would have really zero interest probably in seeing a 4th Matrix personally, but some people would like it.
I think some people would, but I don't think it would have wide appeal.